How's it going, guys and girls? Hope you guys are having a great week. So it is time to revive my What Do We Know So Far series for 2019. I'm going to do one of these each month, and in January we're going to kick off today by talking about Anthem series, everything that we know so far about Anthem. So Anthem is a massive online action RPG, and it is pretty much EA's answer to Destiny. Developed by Bioware, it is actually their first new IP in 10 years and is set for a worldwide release on the 22nd of February and will be available on the Xbox One, PC and PS4. So let's talk a little bit about the setting and the lore. So the setting for the world, the game is actually based on an unnamed world. We know it isn't Earth, but it is home to a force called the Anthem of Creation, which has been used to pretty much create the world that we inhabit. The Anthem of Creation is a mysterious unknown force that can be either used for creation or destruction. It was actually used by a precursor race known as the Shapers, and they used this technology to form the world, to terraform the world that we live on. Now, halfway through this, they actually gave up and mysteriously left the planet or died off. We don't really know what happened to them. I'm sure hopefully we'll find out as we explore the game, but this technology has been left behind, and there is lots of Shaper tech, artifacts and relics. A lot of this technology has been repurposed to create the striders that we use, and also the javelins, which are massive exosuits that we use to navigate the planet. Now, a lot of this technology is still in use. It's not really controlled, and it is a little unstable, and when it interacts with the Anthem of Creation, it creates massive Shaper storms, which are basically tears in the fabric of reality. From these Shaper storms, these change the world that we live in, and huge things can come out of that. So giant creatures, new races. For example, the scars that we've seen in a lot of the gameplay trailers, these are an insect-like and vicious race that actually came out of the tears in these Shaper storms. Humankind has taken to live in big walled cities and locations, which provide protection from the dangers out in the wilderness caused by these Shaper storms. One of the major cities is Fort Tarsus, which acts as a frontier town and base of operations for our main protagonist. As our main protagonist, we get to choose whether we're going to be male or female. We do get to customize our own character, and it will be voice acted. We play as a freelancer, which is basically a heroic adventurer that goes out with a small team to complete jobs, save strangers, complete missions, destroy Shaper artifacts, and obviously kill bad guys. That is the general premise of it, but obviously we'll learn more as we go along. Now, who are the freelancers? Well, the freelancers used to be part of something called the Legion of Dawn. The Legion of Dawn were the biggest order of heroes that predate hundreds of years, I think, prior to the events that we are playing. They were a legion of heroes led by General Tarsus, which is obviously named after Fort Tarsus, and I think they sort of colonized much of the world and built these big cities, perhaps. Maybe we'll find out more about them as we unlock codec entries, but what we have learned is that this Legion of Dawn weakened and splintered over time and fractured into different groups. So we have the freelancers, which we are. They are supported by the Arcanists, and the Arcanists basically are researchers. They research Shaper relics, and they also handcraft the javelins that we use to navigate the world. We also have the Sentinels. These act as the kind of policing force in Fort Tarsus. They're the cops of Fort Tarsus, and they use javelins to keep the peace. And then finally we have the Dominion. Now, we learned a lot more about the Dominion in the most recent trailer in the Game Awards last year, and we were introduced to one of its leaders called the Monitor. The Monitor and the Dominion are the antagonists of the game. They are the main villains, or the main force in the game, in the main story that we are fighting. They're basically seeking to take control of the Anthem of Creation for themselves, and they want to create peace and stability through authoritarian control control. So they remind me a lot of Cerberus and the Elusive Man. The Monitor reminds me a lot of the Elusive Man. This idea of, you know, creating peace and order, protecting and saving humanity by, you know, taking this kind of ancient technology for yourself and using it to control mankind, to protect them from themselves. So it sounds very similar to the Elusive Man and to Cerberus. Bioware has always been known for great character development, great storytelling, and a lot of fans are very nervous because obviously this is an always online world, and they are wondering, you know, how that story is going to be told when you're out in the world playing with other, you know, real human players. So Bioware basically have said that they've come up with a new method of storytelling, and they're calling it Our World, My Story. So Our World is when you are out in the open world completing missions, whether it's side content, main missions, exploring, and that story is going to be told through gameplay. When you're out in the world, you can play with other human characters. You can actually matchmake with up to 3 playable characters. You can choose to play with your friends. You can also choose to play with guild members, so you can create a guild. I really like the idea of that. And you can also play with random players as well. If you choose to do so though, you can play the game fully solo, as a solo player. So for those of you that are hugely into your single player games like myself, you'll be happy to hear that. But they're not going to be NPC companion characters that are out fighting the battles with you. Instead, you will have an NPC team that will support you aboard your Strider, which is your base of operations when you are out in the world. They are made up of 3 confirmed characters at the moment, which is Halleck, who is the driver of the Strider, or our resident mechanic, Faye, who is a Cypher, and Owen, who is also our Cypher. Now, from a lot of the gameplay that we've heard, Owen seems to be the main person that communicates with our freelancer, and you will constantly have this voice in your ear as you're playing, giving you information, giving you intel, and perhaps reacting to what's going on in the world as well. I'm kind of sad to hear that we don't have companions, because one of the biggest things I did love about the Mass Effect series, and especially the Dragon Age series, was the party banter and the companion banter between, you know, each of those companions interacting. And I hope that they've managed to keep that in some way, you know, even if it is just through voiceover. So hopefully we'll still have something along those lines in the actual game. You can also play free play mode. This is where you can explore the world to your content. It doesn't have any specific missions for you to achieve, but this is when you will be able to get collectibles, discover landmarks, and get important lore and find important codex entries as well. You won't be able to find those things when you are playing in missions. So let's talk about my story. So this is the single player element to the game. This is going to happen on Fort Tarsus, and this is obviously acts as the game's central hub. It isn't like the tower in Destiny, which was pretty much used as your base of operations, where you would check out your loot and get missions and that kind of thing. Fort Tarsus is a little bit more interactable than that. It is a single player experience, so other online players will not be able to enter your own Fort Tarsus at the moment anyway, at the start of the game. In Fort Tarsus you can talk to other characters, you can take on missions, you can collect things, and it is in Fort Tarsus that you will see your effects on the story. So within Fort Tarsus you can develop certain relationships, you can make important decisions that might influence tone of events. So for example, if you rescue a particular NPC in the world, and then in Fort Tarsus you're able to interact and talk with them, depending on how you interact with them, that will influence your relationship and sort of what information they might give you. So whether they like or dislike your character, or how Fort Tarsus sort of develops and that kind of thing. Bioware have said that the changes you will make will be small changes and more about the flavor and the setting. You're not going to be making big changes like you were in Mass Effect or Dragon Age, where you were deciding, you know, who lives and who dies, and we're making these sort of huge story choices. That will not be the case in Anthem. There are no romance options. Dialogue is a lot more simplified compared to what it was in other Bioware games. So we saw a little bit of dialogue options, and I think you had like 2 options. So there is no dialogue wheel, and when in Fort Tarsus, it is completely from a first person perspective. Now, why is this? This is very different for Bioware. Bioware have always been a third person developer. I don't think I've really played any first-person games by Bioware. The reason they've said that they've done this is they want to make the player feel small in a huge fort, and that they want every conversation to be able to be staged and lit properly. So they want to be able to have control over that. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this whole idea of it being first person, because I like to be able to see my character's reactions to what's happening, you know, to what people are saying. I like to see that reaction as well as, you know, what they're saying as well. And some of those reactions are sometimes what makes those conversations really fun and bring them to life. I think as well, if you're customizing your own character and how your character looks, you want to be able to see that character in the world, and you want to be able to see them interact as well. So I'm not best pleased that Fort Tarsus is going to be first person. Obviously, when you're out in the world, it will be third person, and that's mainly so that you can sort of see your javelin and obviously see the abilities that they do have. So what do we know about DLC content? Well, there is going to be story content that we are told will actually be free, and project lead Casey Hudson has stated that Anthem will have weekly story updates, and these will be sort of an episodic narrative that will continue. EA have implied that this will be a 10-year experience, kind of like what Activision did with Destiny. I'm sure there will be some paid DLC at some point, but we do know definitely there will be no loot boxes, which is definitely a positive, but there will be some microtransactions, though these will be cosmetic only, and they will be used to give you extra customization options for your javelin. And we know that there is a huge element of customization to customize the look and style of your javelin and how it's equipped. So let's of course talk about the gameplay, and let's talk about the javelin classes, because that's one of the most exciting looking things for me. There are 4 javelins that you can play with. At the start you get the Ranger, which is your bog standard javelin, but as you progress the game you will unlock the 4 javelins, and you can switch between these freely in between missions. So I really like the fact that you can do that. Now, each of these javelins are very, very different in character and in the way that they play. The Ranger is an all-rounder, I guess you could say. It's the most versatile javelin available, and it's probably the best for beginners, which would explain why it's the first javelin that you gain access to. It is a balanced javelin at both ranged and melee combat, and aside from heavy weaponry, it can pretty much equip nearly every weapon type in the game. So think of the Ranger kind of like your soldier class would be in Mass Effect, or your warrior class would be in Dragon Age. Then we have the Colossus. The Colossus is an expert in heavy weaponry. Basically, it's a tank or a brute class, and is an expert in heavy weaponry, including homing missile launchers, mortars, flamethrowers, heavy cannons. It is a massive javelin, so it is a lot slower than the other javelins available, but it does have a jet booster to speed up when you can run, and it has a very heavy, massive Cassus, plus a shield to do some very heavy damage if you are a fan of melee combat. We then have the Storm. The Storm is similar to Destiny's Warlock. It is pretty much Anthem's mage class, and it uses lethal elemental attacks. So you can hover above ground infinitely from the looks of it, which is very unlike the other javelins, where your ability to fly and your booster does become overheated over time, and you do have to cool it down either by flying through water or landing. The Storm doesn't seem to have that when it comes to hovering, and the idea is that it's sort of a ranged attacker where you will hover above ground and rain down, you know, a barrage of elemental attacks, you know, lightning, fire, frost, or whatever it might be, and try to combat combo off of your partners. The Interceptor is the 4th javelin available, and it is all about agility and mobility. The Interceptor is an expert in melee combat, and its abilities are mainly focused on weakening enemies. It uses both hit and run tactics, so think of it as the hunter class or the assassin class in Dragon Age. It is a very flashy and very acrobatic class, and it's probably one of the most impressive looking of the javelins available. Next, let's talk about the loot system. So obviously this is EA's answer to Destiny, and therefore loot is quite a large part of it. There will be a lot of loot for you to collect and to equip in Anthem, and the quality of loot will be determined by your pilot's level. Some loot will be dropped by certain enemies, and other loot can be earned by completing certain quest lines. It will all be instant, so what that basically means is your loot cannot be stolen by other players, so that's good to know. And there are several tiers to loot as well, so there's common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and masterwork. These are all color coded, and these drop in the world randomly, and you pick up these colored engrams. Now, what I don't like, which I have heard from some recent gameplay, is that the loot that you pick up now in the world, you can't actually see what loot you have collected until you either complete that mission and go to the completion screen, return to your Strider, or return to Fort Tarsus. So that's annoying, because you're not going to always be able to see what loot you've gotten and whether or not it's worth keeping, or whether it's worth dismantling or selling, or whether or not you've gained a piece of loot that you've been trying to get for quite a while. So hopefully they'll change that mechanic as the game goes. Now, Anthem is a game that I'm very much on the fence on. Some of it looks really exciting. I love the idea of the world and the lore. I'm really interested in it. I think it has a lot of potential. The javelins look like a lot of fun as well, and you know, I am looking forward to being able to play this game with my friends, but my biggest concern, of course, is the story and how substantial and how satisfying that story is going to be. What does make me happy though is we will be able to get our hands on Anthem before it releases, and there are going to be 2 demos coming out. First, we have the pre-launch VIP demo, which will be available from the 25th to the 27th of January, and that's for people that have either pre-ordered the game, have signed up to Origin Access or EA Access, and they'll be able to play that game a week early. And then of course we have the standard open demo, which will be available for everyone else, and that's going to be available from the 1st to the 3rd of February. So we have had some details about the demo, and it sounds pretty good. Players will actually start the demo at level 10, and they will be able to level up to level 15 before hitting the level cap. Progression will not carry over into the main game, so whatever weapons they get, whatever levels they achieve, whatever abilities they unlock, that will stay purely in the demo. But it does have a good cross section of content available for gamers, so there are a variety of mission types, which I like. We will be able to get access to 2 javelin suits that we'll be able to check out, though I haven't heard anywhere which javelin suits those are going to be. We will be able to explore the open world through free play. We will be able to investigate Fort Tarsus, so I'm really looking forward to that. And we are going to have the opportunity to take on a stronghold once we reach the recommended level. And these strongholds basically are like Anthem's equivalent of Destiny's raids, so it'll be interesting to see how challenging they are and what kind of loot and what kinds of things we get from that. So that's everything that we know so far about Anthem. Let me know what you guys think of the game in the comment section below. What are you looking forward to with Anthem? Are you going to be playing the demo? Let me know. I will definitely be playing the demo all weekend that weekend. I'll be playing it a lot with my friends. I'll be recording footage, and I will be actually uploading several videos probably after that weekend where I break down a few things on it. So I'll probably break down the javelins and what the gameplay is like. I'll probably talk about the stronghold. I'll talk about for Tarsus, obviously, and generally what my impressions are for the demo and what my thoughts are going into buying the game on the 22nd of February. So that's everything pretty much. Hope you guys found this video useful and informative. If you did, please hit the like button as always to show your support. I'll be back again later with more video content for you guys, so look forward to that. Anyway, hope you guys have a great week. Take care, and as always, happy gaming. Bye guys.